I think sometimes people look at me and they think, oh, you don't look as sick as you say that you are. Which hurts to hear because when I'm having a seizure and I can't speak afterwards, I certainly feel as sick as I am.
Brittany Maynard was doomed to die, no question. Ask the doctors, and they will tell you nothing short of a biblical miracle would have saved her from dying from an inoperable brain tumor. So the 29-year-old took her own life recently as she promised. And the right to die is a debate America cannot avoid. Let's welcome to MidPoint. He is a board member of the Death with Dignity Political Action Fund, former professor of philosophy at the University of Minnesota Duluth, and he has served on the board of directors of the American Association of Suicidology. Dr. David Mayo joins us today. Dr. Mayo, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure, Ed. Glad to be here.
Doctor, what exactly is death with dignity? Because quite frankly, there are many people and critics who will say there is nothing dignified about killing yourself.
By death with dignity, we mean an Oregon-style law in which patients who are terminal, competent, and of a fixed desire to die can obtain a prescription which they can take at their own choosing to bring about a peaceful death.
Why is that dignified? And again, I'm hitting you with a lot of the criticisms of this because there are those people who say it is sometimes irresponsible, it sometimes leaves great pain with family members, and of course I'm sure you're going to hear from the people who will say miracles do happen even in people who are terminal.
Well, let me take up the last point first. This notion that miracles can happen, so we should never give up hope, flies in the face of the last 50 years of medicine and medical ethics. During that period, the doctrine of informed consent has replaced the doctrine that the doctor knows best. In the 60s, there were debates about whether cancer patients should be told whether they have cancer or not. Now the law guarantees the patient the right not only to know what's going on, but to decide whether or not they want any particular treatment. And I emphasize, do not. The hospice has become the standard of care for terminally ill patients. So hospice is a program whereby people who are told your chances of recovery are very, very slim and the treatments are going to be increasingly unpleasant can say, look, I've just had enough. There has been a push and indeed federal legislation urging advanced directives whereby people are urged to think about what they don't want to think about, namely what's going to happen if when they become very, very, very ill. The standard of care now includes hospices and physicians providing as much painkiller as necessary to kill the pain, even if it can be foreseen that this hastens death. This is embodied in the policies of the American Medical Association, the American Nurses Association, the National Hospice Organization, the American Geriatric Society. So the idea that when people get very, very sick, you just treat them with every conceivable treatment as long as there's anything that might possibly prolong their lives is simply not what happens today.
Well, let me ask you this, Doctor. When
Sure.
it comes down to suicide, we're going to take a break in a little bit here, but let me get this out of the way. Why is it that we take suicides, such as Brittany Maynard, who is dying of an inoperable brain tumor, and we consider her to be taking an heroic act, yet we find people who commit suicide who are suffering from horrible mental illness and simply cannot break that chain? They kill themselves to get rid of pain. We call them cowards. What's the difference?
Well, I think those are both very loaded terms, but I think it's not simple or a casual decision for someone to decide this is the way I want to end my life. I think that we call people cowards if we think that they made a terrible mistake. I mean, not to be terribly perverse, but terrorists are described by people who think they're terrorists as cowards. People on their side call them heroes. So I don't attach a lot to that jargon. But it seems to me it's not an easy decision. But what Brittany did was she took control. A wise physician by the name of Eric Cassell remarked, if I had to pick the aspect of illness that's most destructive to the sick, I would choose the loss of control. The job of the physician is to give the person as much control of their life as possible.
All right, now I want you to hold on just a second there, doctor, because we do have to take a break. You just talked about physicians and control. I want to talk about that when we come back as well, because you've opened up a very good point. Also, Dr. David Mayo stays with us after the break. We are also going to delve into the religious aspects of death with dignity and those who call it nothing more at the end of the day, suicide. And at 51 minutes after the hour, Telling It Like It Is has a few words for the Vatican, an official who recently took Brittany Maynard to task and put it in terms of religion. We'll have that and so much more. It all is right here on MidPoint, where every day we question everything.